visit with the rest of the family for... What are you doing? Did you hear that you were going upstairs?
Ooh.
Do you not like that?
Welcome to another episode of Spilling Ink, the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. We are back this week with another guest to introduce you to, and as always, my wonderful co-host, Jason.
Hey, everybody. I missed you guys.
How you been? How was your Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. Some friends of ours bought a zoo in Florida, so we flew down, spent a week with them, had Thanksgiving at the zoo with all the animals and the staff. It was fantastic. How about you? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. It was very good. We had, the family. We had the new puppy, and we just kind of stayed home, enjoying ourselves.
Oh.
All right, so we'll just jump right into it then. Renee, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your books?
All right. Well, my name is Renee Jean. I've been living here in Las Vegas for about 8 years, and I write everything. Animal rescue, charity books. I have attempted my hand at romance, but, we'll just let that die where it is. I've got some thrillers, some murder mysteries, just mostly I like to write a whole bunch of stuff and then see what sticks.
That's cool. Now, what age range do you usually write for? Kind of all ages, or do you have a particular group that you like to write for?
I call it mid-adult, I guess. It's not really young adult. Some of the topics, I do have an entire series based on PTSD, which tends to be a little more real adult. But I also have some young adult. My Never Give Up is definitely a young adult book. I even have an entire kids series based on Daddy and Me instead of Mommy and Me, because I have a lot of single father friends. So I wrote it for them.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. And you said you write animal rescue as well. What are the animal rescue books about? Is this a rescue organization and following their stories, or?
What it is, actually, they're off the market at the moment. There was unfortunately an issue with the person I had partnered with, so I'm revamping, but it's called Rescue Me, and it's anthologies. It's people sharing their stories of how they rescued their animals and how the animals kind of rescued them in return. And the feline edition does star my little monsters here keeping me company, as well as several others I know. But all of them go back 100% of the proceeds to different animal charities. That's
fantastic. I love it. And as our viewers know, and most people who know me, I am an animal lover. I work at a vet office, and I guess our house is kind of an animal rescue in itself. We take in everyone. Too many animals here. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. I would love to check those out. That's very cool. So it's kind of sounds like a little bit of a chicken soup for the soul kind of thing. Stories that'll make you feel good.
Yes, it's very, very similar. Like I said, they're being revamped right now, so I'm going to be working on not only new stories for an anthology, but possibly a new style for it altogether. But okay. The one thing that won't change is everything will go back to the charities.
That's fantastic. I love it. And they definitely need it, because our animal rescue organizations have their work cut out for them, for sure. So now what is your process? You kind of write in all different directions here. How do you come up with what you're going to do next, or is it just kind of however the wind takes you?
I think it's more that the voices in my head, eventually one comes out on top and starts yelling at me, and the only way to make it stop is to finally write down the story.
Okay.
Which is why I've got 2 books in one series, like 3 ideas for a whole nother series, another book for another series. It's the beginning of one, and I'm like, someday I'm going to finish one of these.
Now, how do you find time for writing? Do you set I can't talk. Do you set time during the day to do some writing, or do you just try and squeeze it in where you can?
I tend to squeeze it in more where I can. I work as a casino table games dealer, which, by the way, fantastic inspiration. Great people watching.
I was going to say that people watching must be fantastic.
One of the books I'm actually preparing it'll hopefully be out later this year, or later next year, I guess now, is called Just Deal With It. And it's basically Vegas from the dealer's perspective. Okay. And there is an entire chapter called Don't Be That Guy. And there's another one that says, don't touch the dealer, just like the strip club. Don't touch the dealer. Those are mostly my stories, but I'm actually co-writing that with another dealer. He's been in the industry even longer than I have.
It's amazing the things that you see when you work in a job like that, the different types of people and the amount of crazy that you see that you'd think is unbelievable. And then you're like, yep, there's another story.
Well, many years ago, I worked as a collections agent in the state of Michigan for a rent-a-center. I would do collections, repossession, and I was like, I'm never going to have these kinds of stories again. I will never have a job that has those kinds of stories. And then I became a dealer. I have better stories now. But I do work 2 jobs, so because of that, my time is a little questionable periodically.
So where were you in Michigan? I'm in Michigan as well.
I lived in Lansing.
Okay, awesome.
Although I did some of the Rent-A-Center stuff, not only in Lansing, but also Flint and Detroit.
Okay. Oh, you were on the not so nice side of our state.
I was, but when you look at me and I look like a Barbie doll, most people would think there's no way I could possibly lift up that big screen TV or carry a couch by myself. But I'm stronger than I look.
Oh, stop it. What are you doing? Sorry.
Now, what's coming up for you next, Renee?
Well, hopefully next will be the Just Deal With It book. But I'm working on finishing my thriller series, which is actually all about a writer who is battling the voice in her head that's trying to become more than just a character.
Ooh, I like that premise.
My mom's like, this better not be autobiographical. I'm going to be a little concerned. Do I need to come out there and give you therapy?
Now, do you self-publish? Do you go with a small press?
I did go with a small press for the rescue books, which was unfortunately the problem. I found out later on that the person in charge had not made the donations to the charity, so I ended up going back and doing it myself. And so those are going to be self-published now. Everything else up till now has been self-published. I'm working to become a hybrid and have some books traditionally published. And I went to a conference back in January of this year to actually meet some agents and editors and get some tips on how to do that.
How did the conference go for you? Did you meet some people?
I did, other than the fact that I may have overly stalked R.L. Stine a little bit, which is the entire reason I went.
R.L. Stine is still alive?
Yes.
Holy cow.
And
he was ancient when I was a kid and reading his books.
And it turns out that as great as he is at horror, he's really funny. He had everybody laughing to the point they were crying during his keynote speech.
I think you'd have to be, though. To have a mind that can go that dark, you have to be able to swing the other way.
Yeah, he's really funny. He actually used to run a humor magazine, which I'm determined to now find a copy of. But I met him. I met Jonathan Mayberry, who is also fascinating to talk to. J.A. Jance, who at some point I will hunt down because she put an idea in my head for like 13 books. So that's her fault.
For 13 books?
It's all in one series.
Wow.
At some point I will beat her up for that, but I'm kind of excited about it too. And one of the ideas got to scare my boss the other night, so that was fun.
Well, what was the idea that scared your boss?
It's a murder mystery, and it's set in the casino world, and I kind of figured out how a cocktail waitress could poison a player with their coffee and get away with it. And nice. Apparently his coffee was no longer desirable, and he left real fast. He asked what I was thinking. I told him. Apparently that was wrong.
Now,
Never get on a writer's bad side.
Which conference was it that you went to? Was it out here in Vegas or?
It was the San Diego State University Writers Conference.
Okay. I was going to say there was a recent conference this last month actually that was all about the publishing industry, but it didn't have any agents or editors. I think it was just about the indie publishing industry and the right to market group.
I want to attend some more of those. I'm hoping to go to the Writer's Digest conference in New York this coming year. A friend of mine lives in Brooklyn, and so he's like, if you come on out, I'll give you a place to stay. I was like, you do know I'm going to talk about book writing and be like obsessively stalking other authors the entire time, right? And he's like, yeah, I know.
That's what I keep telling Jason. I'm like, he needs to come out here. He can crash on the couch and go to some of the conferences that are out this way.
I hear the madness in your house. I don't know.
Yeah, it's complete madness over here. Sorry.
I'll bring my whole crew of animals with me, and you'll know what pain really is.
Oh God, yeah, no, we can't handle any more animals. We've got 2.5 cats and a dog now.
Well, 2.5 cats.
The half cat is a feral cat that she lives in our garage. She's garage cat.
Oh, I see.
Doesn't get along with the cats indoors. We've tried her inside, and all she ends up doing is fighting and pooping all over the house. And she cannot survive on her own outside. She has no life skills whatsoever. So the happy medium between that is she has her own little kennel in the garage. She has her own food, her own water, her own litter box, everything in her own little space out there, and she's garage cat.
So as I say, she's not a feral cat then. If she can't, she's a house cat that for some reason
she was originally a feral cat. We have fixed her. We have made sure she's got her shots, but yeah, she doesn't get along with any of the cats in the house. And it'd be cruel to let her outside, even though she doesn't want to go outside. We can leave the garage open all day long. She will not go outside. How did we get on the topic of animals? We always end up going off topic.
Yeah. Well, somebody was just in the office today that was telling me a story about how they rescued a duckling who was drowning. And after they rescued the duckling, her husband performed CPR on the duck. And it came back to life, but after that, it was afraid of water and never wanted to go near water again, which I thought was a pretty good story. Yeah, so
that's interesting.
Yeah. I'm just imagining, because her husband was like this big biker guy, and I'm just imagining him performing CPR on this little duckling. Yeah.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, and it'd be adorable. It'd be a great story for an animal rescue anthology.
There you go.
What do you
I don't think we've had ducks yet.
What do you think? Huh? What do you think?
Now, speaking of organizations, you are actually organizing a charity event in February, correct?
I am, yep. Right before the Nevada Reading Week, we will be working with the Children's Literacy Program, Spread the Word Nevada. My partner and I, Victoria Kerr, another local Las Vegas indie author, we are putting together, this year we have 18 authors tables. 13 of them so far are full, so we've officially met that minimum because we know how to fix the other 5 tables if we don't fill them. That's already more than double what we had last year. And we've got some great raffle prizes. We've got a concession stand this year, which should be fun. And I'll probably be hiding there with the cookies.
That's where I would be for sure. So what charity is this going towards?
It's called Spread the Word Nevada, and what it does is it helps underprivileged children and schools that can't afford to have like books in their libraries and stuff like that to get books for the kids so that they can have the reading and have literacy programs, all sorts of stuff. Okay.
And so how are you drawing attention to this to bring people in for it?
Well, my day
media
job,
stuff here.
My day job, I work at the Venetian Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip, and they have an organization called Sands Cares who partners with Spread the Word. So they are helping us with advertising and press releases. And then we're also working with the entire Clark County library system to get the word out.
That's
Last
awesome.
year we got a lot of people through Starbucks flyers.
So how does the event raise money? Like how does it generate money for the charity?
Every author pays a $30 table fee, and all of that money goes back to the charity.
Okay.
Any of the money from the concession items, and then people can also buy raffle tickets. There's 2 levels of raffle prizes. Some of the smaller ones you can buy tickets for. The larger ones, you actually get a ticket if you buy a book from one of the authors to help promote the authors as well.
That's awesome.
Because we don't want a bunch of authors sitting around making faces at each other not selling books, because then they won't come back.
We'll still sit around and make faces at each other, though.
Yeah, but it's more fun if you get paid while you do it.
That's true.
Plus, I mean, you guys are going to have to listen to me on a microphone for 2 hours, so you may as well get paid.
So, Katie, do you have a table at this event?
I do. I signed up for last year's event as well.
Yeah, last year's was a creative event, to say the least.
The location was truly unique. I thought it was a very interesting place to hold it and made for great people watching.
Yeah, we worked with a veterans organization to do a book signing. We had 6 authors, and we were at a Marine bar and memorial museum. That was interesting.
Yeah, pulling up and seeing all the bikers out front, it was kind of like, oh, okay. But it was so much fun. The energy inside was good.
Yeah, there were 400 of the Las Vegas chapters of the Marine Riders who were there because, as it turns out, the bar is also their clubhouse. And they had an event earlier that day, and they were all still drinking. So they were there to hang out. And when they found out it was a military charity, they jumped right in.
That's awesome. So did each biker buy a book then? Because that'd be great.
Actually, most of the bikers were more involved with bringing the charity asked for cleaning supplies. And so we set up a big box thinking, okay, we'll try to fill the box. It turned out that we filled my car and another car. A friend of mine that showed up that I work with at Venetian, he showed up to try to be supportive. I think he bought a book or two from some of the authors, but we ended up using his car to take stuff home too.
I've got all sorts of animal noises over here. Sorry, Katie.
No worries. So Renee, how did you guys get started with this? Because you and Victoria really spearheaded this last year. Where did the idea come from?
Honestly, we used to do our monthly coffees with the Las Vegas Indies group. And I don't know who said it. Somebody said, we should do a charity event. We should do something to get everybody together, and whether it's for animals or for children or military or something. And then nobody really jumped up to lead it. And Victoria and I really wanted to do something, and neither one of us had much of a life at the time. So we decided we'd partner up and see if we could make it happen. And AJ Renee, who was still in Vegas at the time, is a military wife. There's a lot of military connection in our group. So we went military and just figured, hey, For the Love of Books is a good name. We'll do it in February. It was just a little difficult since we decided to start the first week of January and put the whole thing together in 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's a really truncated timeline.
But we had almost 30 raffle prizes. We raised $350 ourselves, plus the bar kicked in another $150 to make it an even $500 donation. And that's for awesome. 6 authors in 6 weeks, I think we did all right. We had a good time.
Yeah, not bad.
It's so cool that you're organizing these events. That's fantastic.
Well, and the indie community really has a lot of authors that can jump up and participate in these things. And a lot of us are really eager to get out there, and any opportunity to do that is worthwhile.
I think the reason that I jumped into it initially is when I released my book Survivor. I did that as a fundraiser. Oh, we have a bird. I did a whole fundraiser for the Shade Tree organization, which is a shelter here in Las Vegas for homeless women, but also abused women and children and their pets, which is kind of how they got my heart. It was Noah's Animal House. And so when I did the release of Survivor, again, Sans Cares donated the ballroom at Venetian, and we had a cake from Carlo's Bakery, who is a cake boss from TLC. We had Grimaldi's Pizza. We had all sorts of raffle prizes. And so I had some background in doing charity events anyway. And now it's just kind of become an annual thing. So at least we had a lot more time to plan this time.
That's awesome. I can't believe they donated all that stuff. That's amazing.
Oh, it's funny. I went in to order the cake because I knew I was going to have a cake for the Survivor event. And they called me and asked if they could do a few upgrades to it at their own cost. And I was like, sure. And they're not cheap. It was, it was a bigger cake, but it was still about $140. But I was like, it's worth it. I get to say I had a Cake Boss cake. And when we went to pay for it, they told us, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's on us. So they surprised me with that.
Oh, that's so sweet of them. And yeah, they make some amazing cakes, but they aren't cheap. Whew.
No, But we're fortunate. Sprinkles Cupcakes last year donated a dozen cupcakes for our event at the bar, and they've stepped up and done it again. Menchie's Frozen Yogurt has done 4 different ice cream cakes as prizes. United Healthcare, when they were getting ready to remodel, they ordered a bunch of the big pictures and art to go on the walls. They had too many, so they gave us 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
We have passes to flight lines out at Bootleg Canyon this year to do the zip lining. So we've had a lot of organizations step up. You are such a pretty bird.
Those are some really awesome prizes too. So hopefully that helps to get people to buy those raffle tickets. And all the money you said for that goes straight into the charity, correct?
All the money goes into the charity, and then we're also doing a book drive. What they really need is, of course, is books that can be handed out and donated to the schools. They have 49 elementary schools locally that they work with. And so they do brunches, they do all sorts of fundraisers, and they do actually do reading hours and things like that. I actually volunteer during reading week to go and hang out at the elementary schools and read to the kids. I had a blast with that last year.
Our elementary school where my boy goes, they do a bookworm breakfast once a month. Mm-hmm. And it's that same thing. They have on their little platform area, they lay out all the books and the kids can go pick a book. And it's wonderful for them to be able to pick up a new book to read.
It's very similar to the RIF, Reading is Fundamental program that I had growing up in Michigan. But they run out of books, and they run out of, the ability to get more for the next round of books, the next round of schools. They're still adopting schools. I think they're going to be up to about 60 by the end of the year. And so our goal is to raise about $500 and 1,000 books minimum.
What age range do you need on the books?
Anywhere from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade.
So, Renee, you are an indie author right now. Mm-hmm. You're working on going more towards hybrid. Now, how are you selling right now? You don't have to give us sales figures, but it's been kind of a rough year for a lot of us indie authors.
Yes.
So what has it been like for you?
Well, it turns out that I suck at marketing. And so I'm going to say other than shows, pretty much non-existent. I do great at shows. The Vegas Valley Book Festival, Author Palooza, any of those that we go to, I always do great. When I'm there and I can talk to people and build that rapport, but just spamming Facebook and Twitter and trying to run Goodreads things, which I'm pretty sure I broke Goodreads for a minute. It's basically non-existent if I'm not at the show.
And then going broke with ads too, if you try that, doesn't necessarily work either.
No, and I tried it like once or twice and realized that I have no idea what I'm doing. So, and I pulled one of my books, Never Give Up, my young adult book, off of Amazon because I maintain self-published, but through somebody else, claiming to be like a little, indie publisher. Basically, you pay them $40 so they can self-publish for you.
Okay.
But I don't trust her. And I didn't want her to be the one that could control whether or not I could order copies of my own book. And she is vengeful like that. So I pulled it off of Amazon, and I'm going to reformat, re-edit, and republish it myself.
I am actually going to be pulling every one of my books over the next year because I want to re-edit and revise and change some things around. I recently signed on with a smaller publishing company, actually just in the last few months here, and their motto is that series sell books. And I know Katie has some really long series, and I really enjoy reading series as well. So I'm kind of taking the novels that I have, and in addition to writing new ones, I want to tweak them a little bit so they have a little bit more connective tissue between one another. So someone can read, Pathosis and say, oh, okay, well, I recognize this from this other book that he's read. That's kind of a cool connection. And, let me see what else I can find and try to develop a little bit more continuity between the books. which is why I was asking kind of how you got your inspiration for what direction you go, because previously I've been writing in all sorts of directions as well, and that's one thing the new publisher kind of slapped my hand about. He said, you're really fracturing your reader base. You're going in so many directions that people don't know what to expect from you or if they're going to like it. So, yeah. And I understand that. And at the same time, I do want to write all these different things. I want to write thrillers. I love reading thrillers, but I also want to write horror. I want to write some sad, sappy stuff that, might make you cry a little bit. So it's trying to build a rapport with the readers and then keep it going through all these different genres is going to be kind of my goal over this next year, I think.
Yeah, I've got about 7 books right now that are, 3 of them are novellas, and they're part of actually my PTSD series, where Survivor was one of the novellas. The novel is called Sharing Strength, and it focuses on a group of, like a support group, I guess, for PTSD. But I was watching a documentary, and after 3 hours, they essentially came out and said that unless you're in the military, you can't have PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD when I was 22, and I've never served a day in my life. So that irritated me, and I immediately started writing a book that had military, it had car crash survivor, it had an abusive relationship survivor, it has a rape survivor. It has all these different ways that you can get PTSD. And then each character represents things and demonstrates different aspects of the disease and of the recovery process. And then the novellas are actually the background to each character, to how they ended up in Sharing Strength.
I like it. So are your stories are fictional, correct?
Most of them.
I was going to say, but they feel like it doesn't feel like regular fiction to me. I mean, it feels very realistic, very real world.
Yes.
I like that. That's cool. What do you call that?
I've tried many things. We're just calling it realistic fiction at this point.
Okay. I get that.
Survivor is actually based on a true story, and so that one was maybe a little more difficult to write.
That was your story?
It was, yes. And unfortunately, I've got the scars to prove it.
I want to say, can I ask what the story is about, or is that not something you want to talk about?
No, it's fine. I talk about it. I actually speak on the subject nationally. It's fighting back against domestic violence.
Okay.
My ex-boyfriend and I had a volatile relationship, to say the least. And when it was time for the relationship to end, he decided it was time for my life to end as well. And I was fortunate enough that part didn't stick. But it took years, therapy years of, unfortunately, failed relationships and me sabotaging things after that, and going from relatively healthy to 300 pounds and back, to be able to talk about it, to be able to share the story. But I've been asked to speak many times. I've held events myself that have helped draw awareness to the subject, and that means a lot to me.
When you do speaking events, do you bring the book with you so that you can let them see deeper into the story?
I do. Usually what most people want, I don't know if you've ever seen at the different events that we've done together, I always wear a purple, one of those rubber bracelets around my wrist. That one says Survivor, and we gave those out at the initial event. I usually have them at book shows too, and they're the royal purple, which is the color of the ribbon for PTSD awareness, or domestic abuse awareness. I wanted to show all aspects. I have friends that have been sexually assaulted, which is a huge, huge topic right now, and that's where the rape victim comes in. I do have friends that are military. My boyfriend is a veteran, and even though he never saw combat, he saw his share of some bad things being in the military. And so I'm fortunate enough that he shares those feelings with me so I can get it right.
Well, and Jason, you're in editing hell right now, right?
I am in editing hell. I would love to be able to write again. I started a new book a couple days ago, and it was 1,000 words in the first writing I've done in a long time. But yeah, it's just the editing is so grueling. It takes up so much time that it'll be nice to be able to be creative again.
But it must be nice, though, to have a developmental editor working with you, because that's more than just standard line editing. They're actually helping you to make the story flow better.
Yep. Yep, they're kind of helping with all aspects of improving the stories, and it's great, but it's a hell of a lot of work. So, yeah.
Do you have a deadline for everything to be turned in?
Yes, actually, the end of January for one book, and then about 3 months later for two more. So, and at the pace I'm going now, I've really got to step things up. I've always been terrible at revisions. Line edits, not so bad, but actual revising takes me a long time because I have to sit and think about the sentence and think about where I want it to go and how to make it work. And by the time I'm done, I'm like, okay, I just spent an hour on this paragraph. How am I going to get through 80,000 words, you know? So yeah, so I need to work on my productivity a little bit. I think that this is really good for me because I've been wanting to become more marketable for a long time and trying to figure out how to do that because I suck at marketing as well. And, you know, we talked to, I think it was Ronnie Verdi a few weeks ago, and he was talking about right to market and, you know, looking at what's hot right now in the world and emulating that in your own writing to try to get your books in the hands of readers that are buying books at right then. And it's tough to do because we're used to writing with our heads and with our hearts and writing the stories that we want. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now is I'm going to be writing thrillers that are going to fit what the type of thrillers that people are buying on the market right now, and kind of see how that goes for me, and hopefully sell some books and reach some new people that I can then draw into other genres that I want to explore as well.
We'll have to follow your progress along as we go through this, because I'd like to see the effect of writing to market and how it works as well. Because, you know, when we talked to Ronnie, I was kind of hesitant because I can't get my head around a story that I don't feel connected to. Yeah. And, you know, I want to write things that people want to read, you know, obviously, but I can't just toss out a story because that's what's hot.
Yes, I agree with you completely, and that's probably why I don't sell very many books either. But so here's where I'm at with one project. I have written a nearly complete novella that was just going to go in my collection of short stories that I wanted to put out next year, and it is more of a really intense emotional drama. Only, okay, that's not what we want to publish right now. Right now we're looking for thrillers. We want this and this. We want the big action scenes. We want James Rollins. We want Mark Dawson. We want, you know, these kind of authors that sell. And so, okay, my intense emotional drama is now going to get a revamp on the plot to where I still have my characters, I still have my overall theme, but it's going to be more of a thriller, you know, instead of a lot of these things that are happening inside a character's mind. All of a sudden there's going to be a revolution and there's going to be this and that and big, you know, world-ending things to try to fit within this thriller category. So we'll see how it works out. It's going to be a bit of a process, but over the next year I should be able to chronicle it pretty well.
We'll definitely be checking in as we do shows each week to see where you're at. Thank you for hanging out with us today, Renee, and talking with us about the charity and your books.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
I was glad we were finally able to work it out. I know that the scheduling was always an issue.
Well, it's with the casino, you know, I might work on Fridays and Saturdays, I might not. I only know 2 weeks in advance. I didn't want to make you guys not be able to talk to someone else just because I was hoping I might have the day off. But it kind of worked out, so I'm glad.
Yeah, we got it to work out. So thank you again for hanging out with us, and I'll be seeing you definitely in February for the event. Oh,
yeah,
look at that. Somebody's stuck into my office.
Maybe we'll all be able to get together for another indie coffee sometime soon.
I miss those. I haven't been able to get out for much lately.
Victoria and I have coffee probably every other week, but that's about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was great talking to you tonight, Renee. Hi, little one. All right, to everyone out there, we'll see you next week.